Hello， 大家下午好。那非常感谢大家抽出时间来观看我们本次疫情政策解析直播系列7。那时间进行的非常快哈，转眼间的我们都已经进行到了第7期。那首先自我介绍一下，我是 Outstream 的顾问，我叫 Laura。那我们本次的第7期呢是非常特别的一期，因为呢在本次视频当中呢，我们争取到了和 ACT 政府直接对话的机会。那在本次视频当中呢，我们邀请到的嘉宾是Chris Steele 先生，还有 Deepak Gupta 先生。那么 Chris Steele 先生呢是 ACT 高等教育部部长和 ACT 道路及交通部部长，同时呢 Steele 先生也是 ACT 多元文化部部长、运输部部长、城市服务部部长和资源回收部部长。那么 Gupta 先生呢是 ACT 议会议员，同时也是本次直播 ACT 首席部长代表发言人。那还有一个非常好的消息要传播给大家的是呢，其实在几周之前，我们也尝试联系了 ACT 的首席部长安朱巴先生。那么可能不熟悉的朋友，大家不太理解首席部长是什么概念。那举一个简单的例子，比如说在疫情严重的时候，大家可能会听到维州州长、新州州长采取了什么样子的措施。那么 ACT 的首席部长呢，你可以理解为是 ACT 的州长，只不过在称呼上面来讲 ACT 区不叫州长，而叫首席部长。在几周之前呢，我们也联系了 ACT 的首席部长，并且把相应的问题反馈了 ACT 的首席部长。那非常高兴的是呢，在昨天晚上我们收到了 ACT 首席部长的反馈。那这个回复呢，我们会在下周的时间放出。同时呢，我们也会再次邀请 ACT 首席部长代表发言人参与我们下周的一个直播。那么也是希望在本次视频结束之后呢，大家可以把在本次视频当中没有解决的问题再次提出来，我们会帮忙反馈给 ACT 政府，并且在下一周的直播当中提供答案。那么大家可能更关心的是，那我们本次视频直播都有哪些内容呢？那本次视频直播呢，我们涉及到的内容比较多其实在直播之前我们也做了非常充分的准备。我们在联系 ACT 政府之前呢，是向大家收集了22个大家非常关心的问题。那ACT 政府在收到我们的问题之后呢，也是非常重视我们的问题，非常重视华人团体在疫情当中受到了哪些影响，以及 ACT 政府在帮助 ACT 华人团体度过疫情方面能够提供哪些援助政策。那在本次视频当中呢，我们解决的问题会包括一个呢是 ACT 州单政策方面的一个问题比如说新财年下190和491的一个名额分配问题，那比如说 ACT 的一个职业清单的变化的问题，还有一个呢是同学们提出来的，是关于 ACT 毕业生移民申请优惠政策的问题。因为在其他的州呢，比如说塔州，它是对于本地的毕业生有一定的优惠政策的。那我们也是把同学们的这个意见反馈了给了 ACT 政府。那一会儿在视频当中大家也会看到Steele 部长先生对于这个问题的一个答复。这个是我们对于本次视频直播非常非常高兴、非常非常欣慰的一个环节。因为部长先生提及到在我们没有反馈给他意见之前呢，其实 ACT 政府并没有考虑到要制定 ACT 毕业生优惠政策方面的问题。但是呢，由于我们提出了这个问题，那他们愿意听取我们的意见，并且建议通过我们来收集大家的意见，并且制定一份 proposal 呈递给 ACT 政府。那么 ACT 政府在制定新政的时候呢，也会考虑我们的意见进去。那这一点是非常非常高兴的，因为无论我们的意见是被100%采纳了，还是80%采纳了，或者是20%采纳了，那至少我们的声音、我们的想法是已经反馈给了 ACT 政府， 并且影响了 ACT 政府政策的走向。当然，这个走向肯定是对于有利于我们华人的一个走向啊，所以这一点是非常非常值得高兴的一点。那在视频结束之后呢，我们也会尽快把这个 proposal 的事情落实，并且呈递给 ACT 政府。当然呢，那除了 ACT 州单方面的一个政策之外呢，视频当中我们还会讲解到比如说国际航班的恢复的问题，比如说疫情期间对于 business 的一个补助方面的问题，比如说购房的印花税减免的一个问题，还有比如说轻轨第2阶段实施的时间的一个问题。那所有这些问题的细节呢，都会在视频当中得到解答。那在结束我的这一段介绍之前呢，再次预告一下我们下周的一个情况。下一周呢，我们会播放 ACT 首席部长安朱巴先生对于我们问题的一个回复，同时呢，我们会邀请到首席部长的代表发言人再次跟我们进行沟通大家所关心的问题。那么在本次视频结束之后呢，我们也会再次发起问题接龙，向大家征集一些本次视频没有解决的仍然存在的问题，反馈给 ACT 政府，并且在下次视频当中进行一个沟通和反馈。那当然还有一个 proposal ACT 毕业生优惠政策，或者是其他任何ACT 州单新政方向的一个 proposal 的一个事情，我们也会尽快落实。好，那现在呢，我们就去看一下我们跟 Steele 先生和 Gupta 先生的一个沟通的细节情况。
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to today's webcast. Today we have our Minister for Multicultural Affairs and Higher Education, as well as Road and Transport, Minister Steele. We have Mr. Gupta, a member of the ACT government, and Ms. Hannah, who is the Secretary Assisting Minister in relation to the multicultural affairs side. Today we're going to talk about a couple of pressing questions that the Chinese community, and especially some international temporary visa holders, and we collected a bunch of questions that we're going to put to the ACT Labour government in order to have a clear, or hopefully clearer, pathway forward for the Chinese business community going forward. That said, the Chinese community and the ACT is quite active in relation to the business, and especially small businesses. And we believe that the past government policies in relation to migration and education has benefited the region in a great deal by attracting temporary visitors as well as international students. With the event of the COVID-19, the whole students' business has actually stopped. And a lot of the community members are actually worried about upcoming policies and direction that the ACT government is going to take in order to kickstart the business in the ACT. Now, that said, to you, Mr. Steele, the community has been wondering whether the allocation for the visa subclass 190, which is the state sponsorship, as well as the new 491 visa, will that be changed in the upcoming financial year, given that the national government has already stated that the projected international migration will see a substantial downturn?
Well, firstly, thank you, Kai, for for holding and hosting this forum with the Chinese community and the Chinese business community. We know that this has been a very difficult period of time for our multicultural community, particularly those on temporary visas in our community, and there are thousands of them, many who remain in Canberra and can't return home for a variety of reasons, and don't need to return home either. Some are quite happy studying here and the like. But this has been a very difficult time for businesses, many businesses who are run by the Chinese community and employ people on temporary visas who unfortunately have been unable to continue that connection with their employees on temporary visas because they haven't been supported under the JobKeeper program. But we'll get onto that a little bit later. In relation to your question regarding the subclass 190 and 491 visas, there were 1,400 nominated places that had to be met by the 30th of June this year. And we are actually on track to meet that allocation for 2019-20. So there will be no changes in relation to pro-ratering unused nominated places into the next year. What we're waiting on from the federal government is information about what their 2020-2021 allocation of places under those subclasses will be. They've previously indicated that a ratio of 491 provisional to 190 permanent nominated places is likely to increase to a 50-50 split. At the moment, that split is currently 1,200 nominations under the subclass 190 and then 200 under the 491. So we're expecting to see a lot more skilled work regional 491 visa places in next year.
Right. Thank you for that. But with the total reduction in international migration, as projected by the federal government, will the ACT government pull out any special measures or policies in order to attract more international students and migrants to our region compared to other places? We saw a fight, say, to keep the Virgin Australia's headquarters to Brisbane, to Melbourne, or move it to somewhere else. Would something similar happen with the remaining international migrants in the country, so we can actually prop up the ACT economy?
So at the moment, we haven't seen any unused places. So once we get into next year, we'll get a better understanding about which places are being used and which aren't, and whether we need to relook at how we can support more people in those nominated visa classes to be able to work in the ACT, and we'll have to look at that and work with the federal government. But certainly, we want to make sure that we've got workers that can fill positions here in Canberra and keep our economy going in particularly areas where there are skill shortages and gaps, and that's something we'll continue to work with you on and get a sense about what those issues are going forward. But at this point, we've filled all our nominated places for this year, and there's no need to make any special arrangements until the end of this financial year. Right.
All right. We have now a question for Mr. Gupta in relation to the international travel and the airline arrangement. Of course, we've seen that none of the international airlines are flying to the ACT any longer since the event of the COVID-19. Has the ACT government started reaching out with those previous airlines, namely Singapore and Qatar, to resume international flights? And also, has the ACT government kept up with additional outreach to source other airlines for them to fly to the ACT?
Yeah, thanks, Kai. See, the decision on the international travel will be considered by the National Cabinet at the appropriate time. So when it is the National Cabinet will give go-ahead or resumption of international travel and opening our border to the other countries. At this stage, we are in negotiation with New Zealand. You must have heard yesterday that Prime Minister of New Zealand joined the National Cabinet as well. So this will depend totally on the National Cabinet meeting and the outcomes. We can't answer this question until and that is, we know what's the direction that's coming from the National Cabinet. But ACT government is already strongly supporting the route, resumption of the route. So we are looking into it. And for Singapore Airlines, if we start with the New Zealand one, it will be a first step, and then we'll see how we go. Qatar and other airlines will depend how the National Cabinet will come with the resumption of borders with other countries. So for ACT, yes, we strongly support resumption of international flight, but again, we have to take advice of the National Cabinet and the health authorities before it is safe to travel from in and out of Australia.
Hi, thank you for that. Mr. Minister, the 190 visa that were actually approved before the pandemic had a requirement whereby the recipient or the applicant has to reside in the ACT or in the nominated region for a certain period of time. Given that international travel stopped, we believe the ACT government has actually laxed those requirements and asked those applicants who are affected to submit an international movement records. A lot of our community members on those visas have actually reached out saying that they actually submitted the international movement record, but they haven't really heard back. Do you know, can you actually shed some lights on the process there and whether those applicants who submitted the record should be worried by not hearing anything from back from the government?
Well, the 190 visa holders are not required and have never been asked to submit that information regarding the international movement record for any reason. So applicants for ACT 190 nominations are only required to attach an IMR with their application if they're applying under the 5 years continuous ACT residence eligibility criteria. So we're not aware of any issues in regard to the provision of that information and that holding up the process. But if there's some information that you want to provide on a case-by-case basis for us to have a look at, really happy to look at that.
So as long as the applicant or whoever needs to submit the records has evidence of having the records submitted to the right address, would that be sufficient to as an evidence in going forward?
Well, I guess what I'm saying is, well, if they shouldn't be required to submit that in the first place in relation to the 190 visa subclass, unless they're applying under the 5 years.
Oh, okay. Oh, maybe my understanding on that question was for those who are hoping to apply for 190 and they are required to stay in the ACT for a certain period in order to accumulate. I think that's where the movement records has to be submitted.
Yeah. Well, if you want to provide some more information on that, we can certainly look into that. But
Okay. Now another question in relation to the international students who are actually in the ACT. Given that they've completed the higher education or the VETS vocational training in the ACT, would the ACT government start considering any special consideration, special points to be awarded for those students who spent the education and done the time in the education in the ACT that would like to apply for state nomination going forwards? We understand that this has been done in some other states, such as Tasmania, and whether the ACT has actually anything on consideration for this side.
We don't have anything under active consideration at the moment for that program, but we're certainly interested in hearing a proposal from you in relation to that if you think that could be beneficial. Obviously, there are a certain number of places that have been nominated under the program, and that needs to be able to meet the needs of the ACT across a whole range of skill areas. So we want to make sure that it's targeted and meeting the needs of the economy. In relation to that visa sub-holder class, though, the graduate visas, we know that they're going through a very difficult time at the moment, where they have no support often from the federal government as a result of their decision under JobKeeper program not to allow temporary visa holders, including that subclass of visas, to be able to get support. That is really devastating, and it means that some people have literally no income on which to live at the moment. And so the ACT government's announced a support package which will include the subclass 485 visa for support in terms of emergency relief, just with the basics so we can get these people through this very difficult period of time.
Yeah. So when will those policies be announced?
So in relation to the emergency relief, we've announced the program and we're just finalising the contractual arrangements with the provider, which will be the Australian Red Cross, and the people can contact them now. There's information on the COVID-19 ACT website, which is covid19.act.gov.au, about how to get in touch and access that emergency relief if they've been affected by COVID-19 and don't have a job. They might have been retrenched or stood down, for example, and can't access the existing Australian government support.
Right, that's great. I believe that Mr. Gupta shared a Red Cross number with us the other day as well. Do you guys have it on hand by any chance, the phone number?
Yeah,
for the businesses, yeah, it is 6205 0900.
So that's for the business support, and there's also the Australian Red Cross support. So that's 6234 7695.
That's great. That's great. So hopefully those in need can actually contact them. Now, Mr. Gupta, will the ACT introduce any support packages to small businesses like what the New South Wales government has done, i.e. providing $10,000 to businesses that meet the requirements?
ACT government has already started assisting the local businesses from the time of bushfire. We did introduce waiving of some of the licenses, like the sitting outside licenses was waived for 12 months for the businesses who have not applied for it. So those measures were taken during that time. But now for this COVID situation, the ACT government has come up with a lot of measures to waiving of fees and all. And some of them have been like taking out the registration fees, waiving the payroll taxes, and rental relief for commercial and community tenants of the ACT-owned property. So that has been significantly impacted by the virus, and also electricity rebate for small businesses, and also free relief for food businesses and businesses with infection control licenses. So there are so many measures have been applied by ACT government to the local businesses, and there's waiver of fees as well. So, but if you want to need more specific tailored answers related to anybody's business, so the number which I gave you before, business license team number is 6205-0900. So ACT government has been providing all this support, and it continue to do so. But it again depends business to business. But a lot of things like rebate on electricity bill, deferral on commercial rates, notices, payroll taxes, and all. So these are some of the measures which have seen a huge amount of saving for the local business.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Look, back to Minister Steele. The occupational list that goes with migration under the 190 and 491, they are normally reviewed a couple of times a year. And a lot of questions that we received is that when are those reviews made, and what sort of principle behind it, and whether there will be a likely review for this financial year, which will end in just 2 months' time.
Thanks for the question. We do look at the occupational list from time to time to make sure that we're meeting the economic needs of the territory, and consulting with the business sector around what are those needs going forward, and what areas and what industries do we need to be making sure that we're supporting to meet skills gaps in particular. So once we have a better understanding of the number of places and the nature of the places for next financial year, we'll certainly be looking at what are the skills that are needed, and some of those skills may be slightly different in the current climate to what we've usually had. I've just undertaken consultation with the vocational education training sector on what types of training courses we need, what places we need in our training courses to support the emerging skills needs, and certainly it's in areas like aged care, early childhood education, community support. Of course, healthcare is a big one that's emerged through this, but there are a range of other areas, infection control and the like. So we will be looking at those skill sets soon, and certainly I think the pandemic will have a role in determining exactly what we need going forward.
Yep, that's great. Mr. Gupta, will the ACT government consider the ending of the stamp duty for purchase of properties earlier than what was actually projected by the government?
So the current position or situation of abolishing of stamp duty is for the household buyers income under $160,000 a year. So that will be from July 1. But we really don't know that this will take place or not, depending upon other measure government is doing. So at this stage, what it was earlier was any household income under $160,000 a year from July onwards.
Right. Okay. And has
Yeah, so that still extend. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So the policy has already been put in place. Right?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Right. Now, Minister Steele, since you are also the Minister for Transport, this is a question in relation to the investments in the second stage of the light rail, because a lot of, I wouldn't say a lot, but many of the Chinese community in the ACT works in the construction industry, and they are quite keen to learn whether construction project will be brought forward or investment brought forward, and more specifically, whether the second stage or the third stage of the light rail will be prioritized and brought forward in order to kickstart the economy.
Thank you. Infrastructure is going to be critically important for the recovery phase for the economy coming out of the pandemic. In the very short term, we fast-tracked a range of what are known as screwdriver-ready projects, so projects that can start immediately. They tend to be smaller projects around maintenance and minor upgrades. We're doing that across the city, upgrades to public realm, footpaths, and improvements there, as well as upgrades to our existing community facilities and CIT and those sorts of things to create jobs in the short term. We've also got an existing infrastructure pipeline, and we don't want to step away from that because we know how important it is, especially the major projects. We've seen that on Light Rail Stage 1, which created over 4,000 jobs in construction. And we're committed to Stage 2A, and we're still intending to start construction in the next financial year on that project. And we're looking at what the opportunities are as well as the risks, because there have been a number of risks that have emerged during the pandemic in relation to some of these major projects. Supply chain risks that have emerged around getting particularly products and materials from other countries during what is a very difficult time for the global supply chain. So we're looking at what the opportunities are, potentially to start some works earlier on some of our projects. And we're certainly not stepping away from infrastructure. It's going to be critical to creating jobs, and we'll have further announcements on that as in the weeks and months ahead.
So sorry, Kai, just on the transport one, I'd also like to add that the taxi industry, those people who apply for waiver of their number plates and all that has also been taken care of. And some of, this is the feedback I have received from a lot of taxi operators. They have started to receive the financial package from the ACT government, and they are very happy about it that during this time, they didn't miss out on the income, and they're able to retain some of their drivers. So that was also an initiative of ACT government to the local taxi industry.
Okay, that's great, Mr. Gupta. Look, I have a last question where I would like both of your opinion and comments on, which is in relation to the federal government, federal Liberal government's statement to all international visa holders to go home. Well, we like Australia and we're living in Australia, and we believe that this is a great multicultural country which is very welcoming and understanding, and we were all at one stage migrants. So for the federal Liberal government to ask all the temporary visa holders, including students and those on short-term work visas, wasn't really perceived very well within the Chinese community, and we wanted to source your opinion from ACT Labor government point of view, whether those message was actually appropriate, and what is the view of the ACT government on international, short-term and temporary visa holders.
Well, I think.
Start with, Mr. Steele.
Thank you. These people are Canberrans. They may not be Australian citizens, but they're Canberrans, and we're a welcoming and inclusive city, and we know that they play an important role in the business life of our city, in the economy, in our education sector, in the cultural life of our city. And I am a bit frustrated with the federal government's position on this, because there are thousands of temporary visa holders that still remain in Australia because they can't go home. Some of them would be persecuted if they did, if they're asylum seekers. But international students, some of them are happily studying here, doing quite well actually during the pandemic, and continue their studies. But what's been frustrating is that this message has been given to deflect away from the Liberal government's decision not to provide this group with support under both job seeker, but particularly job keeper has been the major issue. So this has meant that many temporary visa holders who have been employed, often with Chinese businesses or with businesses run by multicultural communities, have not been able to remain in work, and it's been absolutely devastating because they don't have any other form of assistance from the Australian government. They're not eligible. And so we've been advocating for that very strongly to the federal government to make them eligible for JobKeeper so that they can remain in work and get through this period and support those businesses to get through. And unfortunately, that has been utterly rejected, and it is just devastating. And it's one of the reasons why we've had to step in with a little bit of temporary emergency relief. But look, I hate to get a little bit political here, but the Liberal Party does a great job of window dressing with the multicultural community, but when those multicultural communities have been challenged, they've just left them behind. And we've had to step in as a Labor government to actually support them with emergency relief here. But what I'm keen to hear from the Chinese community going forward is just how things are going. That emergency relief will be there to some extent, but I need to be hearing the stories about what's happening in the Chinese business community, how businesses are going, but also around people on temporary visas and how they're getting supported. And unfortunately, I think this probably means that the Chinese community, as they do on so many occasions, will step up and support those members of the community that are doing it tough, because they don't have that support coming forward from the federal government. But we'll see what we can do, and we'll continue to monitor what support we've got and how it's being used as well. So I'll pass over to Deepak for some further words.
Yes, thanks, Chris. And Kai, yeah, ACT government is extremely, I'm using the word extremely disappointed that federal government assistance measures do not extend to the people with temporary visa and the student visa. I myself was a migrant here many years back, and I have calls from a lot of people from Chinese, Indian, and subcontinent community. They really felt that it was a stepmotherly treatment towards them who are holding temporary visa and student visa. But ACT government immediately came out with the package, $450,000 package, as Minister Steele just mentioned, and probably there will be some more will be coming on in coming times, depend on how the situation unfolds. But not only in ACT, the Labor government in Victoria has also echoed the same sentiments of the people of temporary visa and international student. So they came up with a package too. So it was quite disappointing coming from the federal government and Liberal government that they don't want to support these temporary visa holders and students who bring so much of skills and boost economy of our region. I mean, Canberra is a city of public servant and students, so that they are the biggest part of our economy. And but as Minister Chris Steele said, we have come out with the financial package, and we are continuing to do that. Apart from the government, I must say, there's other institutions around. The multicultural community has been also assisting students and people with the temporary visa and vulnerable. So I think this has shown how multicultural we are in Canberra, how supportive we are of each other, and how appreciative we are of each other's culture. So from our side, from the ACT Labour side, this support will continue, and we are one as one Canberra. That's how we see it.
That's great. That's great. Well, thank you both, and Anna, to you as well, for your time today in sharing some of the insights in the thinking and the policies that are going to be discussed and planned for the ACT. We really hope that we will have additional opportunities in the future if we do gather other concerns that are dear or at heart to the Chinese community, that we will have an opportunity to actually liaise and communicate with the government directly.
We'll try to do one in June as well. Okay? It depends on everyone's availability.
Thanks a lot. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks, Kev. Thanks, Chris. You, Hannah.